So we're just going to start off with the definition of a for loop. We'll throw this in as a comment in our code. We'll say a for loop iterates over a block of code for a set amount of steps. All right, so we're going to write a for loop and then we'll talk about how it is utilized. So before we do that, let's go ahead and set up our environment. So we're going to say hashtag include IOStream. Remember, that's our input output stream. We need that in order to input and output. And then using namespace standard. And then finally, we're going to create our main function. And there we go. So we recently looked at a while loop, and what a while loop is while something is true, do something. A for loop kind of follows the same thing, except here we can set the number of steps that we require. All right. For example, let's say we want to find the sum of a set of numbers from 0 to a max. All right, so the first thing we need to do is figure out what variables we need. So we want to find the sum of a set of numbers from 0 to a max. All right, so that's easy enough. We're going to use a double for sum, and we're going to initialize it to 0 to begin with. And then let's go ahead and set a double for max as well. And we won't initialize max because what I want to do, well, that says subble. What I want to do is I want to have the user initialize max. So user defines maximum value. And remember, to do that, we just do a cout and cin. So cout will say provide a max value. We'll be a little enthusiastic about it, throw an exclamation point at the end. Okay, and then we'll cin whatever they say to max. Cool. That's nothing that we haven't seen before. But now we're going to bring in our for loop. So let's go ahead and throw in a comment to describe what the for loop does. The for loop below will increment from 0 to the max and return the sum. So that's right. That seems pretty straightforward. In order to create a for loop, we use the keyword for, and then we open and close parentheses, open and close curly braces. Open and close at the same time, that way you don't have to worry about missing parentheses or curly braces. So inside of our for loop, we're going to start with the integer I equaling 0. This is our starting point. I is 0. And what we want to do is we want to check to see if I is below the max. So we're going to say I is less than or equal to max. And then if it is, we're going to run some code that we'll put in our curly braces. And after we run the code, we'll do I++. So let's go into our curly braces. Press enter twice, key up. So let's go through this again a little bit slower. But I'm going to throw a comment here real quick. Code. All right, so this is saying that for int I, which is 0, I want you to look at I and see if I is less than or equal to the max value, which the user sets. If it is less than or equal to the max value, run the code and then increment. Look at the I again, which I, the second run should be 1. Is I less than or equal to the user set value? If it is, run the code and then increment. And that now I is at 2. So is 2 less than or equal to the max that the user set? If it is, run the code, increment. And now I is 3. So is 3 less than or equal to the max that the user set? If it's not, then it stops. It doesn't run the code in here. It just ceases. All right, so we want the sum to be the sum of the set of all numbers from 0 to max. Let's be a little bit more specific. Set of numbers, integers. Because if we do all numbers, that's a lot of numbers. All right. So let's say that we have sum plus equals I. So what we're doing here is we're taking whatever I is at that point and we're adding it to the total of the sum. So for example, right here sum is 0, I is 0, so our first thing would add, first run adds 0. The total is 0. All right, so the second run then adds 1. The total is 1. And then the third run adds 1. And now the total is 2. So it increments on and on and on like that until we reach 1 beyond the max value. So let's see if this works. We're going to go down here to run. And we can see that I have provided max value. Let's do 44. Okay, cool. Nothing happens. At least nothing that we can see. So while we do enter 44 and this goes into our C and max, this code is running, but we don't have any way to see it run. So what we need to do is have a C out within our for loop that just returns the sum. Now we could keep it in the for loop to return the sum every step of the way, or we could keep it outside the for loop just to return the total sum. I'll show you what both of those look like. So we could say for this one, C out, and then we just C out sum. And then we'll also stream in a new line escape character. There we go. So let's go ahead and run that. I'm going to do something simple like 10. And we can see that we get 1, 3, 6, 10, 15, 21, 28, so on and so forth. So we start with 0, and then we add 1. We start with 1, then we add 1, that gives us 2, and our running total is 3. Then we add 3, that gives us 6. Then we add 4, that gives us 10. We add 5, that gives us 15. We add 6, that gives us 21. We add 7, that gives us 28, so on and so forth. So that's what it looks like if we see out the sum in the for loop. Now let's see what happens whenever we put it outside of the for loop. So we're just going to cut this and paste it between these two curly braces. This curly brace is the curly brace that starts our for loop, and this curly brace is the curly brace that starts our function. So we want to paste it between these two. And then we run it. Let's do 10. And we can see that our total sum is 55. So what that is, that's 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus 7 plus 8 plus 9 plus 10. Whew, that's a lot. Anywho, that's a way that we can use a for loop, and it's a pretty straightforward structure. There are things where you nest for loops, and you can use them in games for decreasing health and such, but we'll do that later on. Anywho, that's been the for loop, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.